Outkick the show. I hope all of you have had fantastic weeks. I've been down at the beach. Your boy is tan, somewhat rested, even though I worked on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of last week. I am back in fighting shape, even better fighting shape than Anthony Ruiz. Look at this gorgeous beard. Look at this gorgeous tan. Let's be honest. It's hard to be better looking for a 40-year-old father of three with a sports media empire that continues to dominate more every single day. A lot to get to. Let me give you a rundown of where we're headed. The Warriors sink the Raptors. The Hank Haney absurdity that is driving me crazy. NBA ratings have tanked, as your boy told you they would. Anthony Ruiz, the fat man. Never thought I'd be in better shape than a heavyweight champion of the world. Guess what? Boom, today is the day. I made it happen. The SEC has lifted its alcohol ban, making it easier to watch Tennessee football. And I went to go see Aladdin. I got an Aladdin review for you. And the spelling bee. I got to weigh in on this damn spelling bee. It's been driving me crazy. I didn't talk last week about it. So let's jump right in. All right. Warriors sunk the Raptors. Let's give credit where credit is due. I know I put up a poll and 20,000 of you voted in it, and 75% of you said you were rooting for the Raptors. You are all haters. I am a Warriors fan. I embrace excellence. I want dominance to continue. I want the greats to stay the great, and the Warriors are the greatest right now in the world of the NBA, and they had another improbable win last night. You may hate them. You may not like them. But if I told you Klay Thompson was out, if I told you that Kevin Durant was out, if I told you that Kevon Looney, Kevon Looney, who's actually a pretty good player, 25-year-old interior presence, was out, and they still found a way to win on the road against the Raptors down the stretch, you'd have to be impressed. Here is the truth, and I'm going to have to write a big piece on this, maybe do an entire show on it for radio purposes. Steph Curry is the real heir to Michael Jordan's throne in the NBA. There's been all this time spent talking about LeBron versus Jordan. LeBron is not going to have a long-range impact on the NBA because he is a meteor streaking across the night sky, a physical freak, the likes of which we are unlikely to see at any point in the future. The real playmaker of his generation, the man who has changed the game, is Steph Curry. People are talking about Steph Curry at every age of basketball. LeBron hasn't changed anything about basketball. Steph Curry has changed the way the game is played. When I was a kid, we all wanted to be Michael Jordan. The kids today all want to be Steph Curry. If it makes you sad to realize that, that's because you've been sold a bill of goods. It ain't LeBron versus MJ. It's Steph versus MJ. And when he locks down title number 4, especially if Kevin Durant stays in Golden State, he's going to squarely put in target the possibility of 6 championships. Again, just an incredible performance. I have to say this. I don't understand why the Raptors didn't foul Draymond Green late in that game last night. When Draymond Green has the basketball, you're down 2 and there's like 20 seconds left. You have to foul Draymond Green there. I didn't like the Andre Iguodala 3. I appreciate the balls that it takes to drain a 3 like that, although I'm a little bit nervous about the white power signs that Andre Iguodala threw up right after he hit that 3. Then Steph Curry wore an okay hat. I'm telling you guys, it's tough when the white supremacists have moved in and grabbed Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala to their ranks. That, my friends, is going to be difficult to overcome. But the key here is that I thought the Raptors misplayed it down the stretch, but the bigger issue is the Golden State Warriors went out and won this at the start of the third period. It was absolutely a fantastic run. Warriors tied up 1-1. They're minus 285 now to win the series. That's a big favorite. We'll see what happens with Klay Thompson's health, with Kevin Durant's health, with Kevin Looney's health. Props to DeMarcus Cousins. He played really well, especially considering the limited number of reps and minutes he could have gotten prior to that. Stepping into the NBA Finals, playing the biggest game of his career on the biggest stage. I don't think the Warriors would have won without DeMarcus Cousins last night. All right, I got to go into this right now. I didn't pay a lot of attention to this because I wasn't that active on social media last week because I was down at the beach. So I'd do my radio show, and then I'd kind of dive out. We went deep sea fishing with the kids, went to the water park with the kids. I went kayaking on a lake with the kids leading into the ocean. We went to, where else did we go? We went on a boat trip, beach day with the kids. I was with the kids a lot. So I wasn't plugged in a ton like I usually am. So I didn't get a lot of this Hank Haney discussion. I knew it was kind of going on vaguely, but I wasn't plugged in on it, and I wasn't paying very much attention to it. This is also not going to shock you. I don't know anything about the LPGA Tour. All right? I know nothing about it at all. I remember back in the day they had Annika Sorenstam, and back in the day before that they had Nancy Lopez, who I think was married to Knight, the former New York Mets third baseman. So, I mean, I don't know much about the LPGA, all right? And I know that there's Michelle Wie now, and Michelle Wie played for a while, and whatever. So, I didn't know that the U.S. Women's LPGA Championship was going on. But I did see that the winner, and I can't believe this. This is a crazy story. So, the winner of the Women's LPGA Championship is a woman named, and I might mess this up, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Young-Un Lee, I believe. Young-Un Lee or Young-Un Lee. If I'm messing that one up, I apologize. She is one of 6 women with the exact same first and last name on the LPGA Tour. That is, there are 6 professional golfers, all from South Korea, all of whom have the exact same name, all right? The South Koreans dominate the LPGA right now like Indians dominate the spelling bee and like Kenyans dominate the marathon, all right? As a culture, for whatever reason, they have poured all sorts of emphasis on this sport, and they are absolutely dominating. So I don't even know Hank Haney. I've never met him. It's not like I'm friends with him or anything like that. I wouldn't know him if I saw like 6 people in front of me and you said, which one is Hank Haney? He said he predicted a Korean was going to win. Doesn't seem controversial considering the Koreans are dominating. And then he said, I couldn't name you 6 players on the LPGA Tour. Maybe I could. Well, and then he named Michelle Wie, said she was injured, Lexi Thompson, and said I'd go with Lee. If I didn't have a name, a first name, I'd get a bunch of them right. And the co-host said there are 6 Lees on the course. All right? Then Lee number 6. I'm not kidding about this. I saw this on Sunday. I couldn't believe it. The names are the exact same, so they give them a number to designate when they broke into the PGA Tour. Okay? This is pretty crazy. So there are 6 women with the exact same name on the PGA Tour, and Hank Haney predicted a Korean, and then he predicted one by the last name of Lee would win. All right. Probably trying to be a little bit funny, but so what? You know, if there were 6 Phil Mickelsons on the PGA Tour for men, there would be tons of jokes about the fact that there were 6 Phil Mickelsons. If there were 2 people on the PGA Tour with the same name that are actually good, there would be a ton of discussion about it, all right? I don't see how remotely this is racist or sexist or xenophobic or whatever else everybody else was saying about it. In particular, this woman, Christine Brennan, who writes for the USA Today. Christine Brennan writes for the 3rd largest newspaper in the country. Number 1 is the New York Times in terms of circulation. Number 2 is the Wall Street Journal. Number 3 is the USA Today. I think that's true. It's possible the Washington Post is now in that mix too. Regardless, the USA Today is either the 3rd or the 4th largest newspaper in America. They have a substantial online presence too, for those of you who don't or aren't familiar with it. She wrote in her column that it was necessary if Haney is not fired from his job, and I just told you what he said, and his co-host with him, and every other role he plays in golf and the news media by dinner time, then the leadership of the game, the PGA Tour, and SiriusXM condone racism, sexism, and xenophobia while basically telling everyone who isn't a white male that golf is not the sport for them. How can you write this? How can there be an editor out there? You can accuse somebody of sexism, racism, and xenophobia based on what Hank Haney said. This Christine Brennan is a lying, deceitful, untrustworthy opinionist. All right? And that wasn't all she said. She went further. She said, and I quote, and this is even wilder, if there's any golf club in the country, let's make it the world, I'm quoting from her opinion piece in the USA Today, that allows Haney to set foot on its property after that despicable exchange, that club is telling every girl and woman and person of color to go play any one of the dozens of other sports they can play for life, not golf. She wants Hank Haney banned from every golf course in the world because he rightfully pointed out that Korean women dominate the LPGA, and then jokingly said if he had to pick one, he would pick somebody named Lee because there are 6 of them. And then one of the 6 women went and won the U.S. Women's Open. Now, I just want to ask you this question. If you were talking with your buddies, or I'll even say me because I host a daily radio show, if one of my producers came on and said, hey, Clay, do you know that the spelling bee's going on today this weekend? Well, maybe not. Maybe I didn't know. No, I didn't know that. I'll probably watch some of it. Who you got? I'm going to take an Indian because Indians dominate the spelling bee. Is that racist and xenophobic and maybe sexist of me to pick an Indian person? Or is it a reflection of the fact that Indians have dominated as a culture the spelling bee? If I didn't know the Boston Marathon was going on, and one of my producers came in my ear and said, hey, Clay, the Boston Marathon's going on this weekend, who you going to pick? If I said, I'll take one of the Kenyans, is that remotely racist, xenophobic, or sexist? Kenyans dominate marathons, Indians dominate the spelling bee, and Koreans dominate the U.S. Women's Open. They've won 8 of the last 12. So I don't understand remotely. I don't understand how this is sexist, racist, or xenophobic. And here's the deal. These accusations are everywhere for Hank Haney. You type in his name right now, and every major place on the internet is calling him racist, sexist, and xenophobic. For what? For telling the truth? I mean, think about this. Let's take it outside of this realm. I don't know anything about the WNBA, thankfully. I like the NBA. I enjoy watching it. If Croatians dominated the WNBA, because women's basketball was insanely popular in Croatia, and I just vaguely knew that, and there were a bunch of Croatians all with the same last name, and my producer came on and said, hey, the WNBA starts today. Who you got for MVP? And I said, I don't know. Give me a Croatian last name. Petrovic, is that Croatian? Was Drazen Petrovic from Croatia? I know he was from one of the Croatian-like countries. Not to be racist, but he was from a Croatian-like country, all right? If I said, I got one of the Petroviches, would that be racist? Of course not. It's not remotely racist. It's not remotely sexist. It's not remotely anything xenophobic. Croatians are really good at basketball per capita. It wouldn't be stunning if their women were also good and if the first 4 or 5 best were all as well. Furthermore, imagine in the NFL if we had 6 players named Tom Brady. If 6 of the quarterbacks in the NFL were all different people, but they were all named Tom Brady. Are you telling me that it wouldn't be regularly made fun of? The fact that we had 6 dudes all named Tom Brady who all happened to be quarterbacks in the NFL, and if they identified themselves as Brady 1, Brady 2, Brady 3, Brady 4, Brady 5, and Brady 6, and then I wasn't much of an NFL fan, and you said, hey, Clay, who you think's going to be the Super Bowl winning quarterback this year? And I said, I don't know, I'll take a Brady. Is that racist? No. I mean, this is insane. Christine Brennan should be ashamed of herself. And honestly, what should happen here is somebody should have to answer at the USA Today for writing a piece that falsely branded Hank Haney as racist, xenophobic, and sexist, and also for publishing a column where they said he should never be allowed on a golf course again. Are you kidding me? Are we in North Korea? You don't agree with what the guy said on the radio? So he should never be allowed to go on a golf course again? This is insane. We're living in an upside down world and not the cool kind like on Stranger Things where at least it's entertaining. Christine Brennan should be ridiculed to the high heavens, and I bet that I am the only person you will hear defending Hank Haney anywhere in the sports media. SiriusXM should be ashamed of itself too. You employ Howard Stern. He makes $100 million a year. What Hank Haney said isn't even in the top billion most offensive things that Howard Stern has ever said. Companies have to start defending creators more substantially and stop curling up in the fetal position and giving in to online mobs that aren't representative at all of the larger audience. This is insane. It's absurd. Everyone affiliated with this story should be disgusted, except for Hank Haney, who should get promoted if it can be considered a promotion, and given the right to call as many LPGA events as he wants with a lot more money. It's got me fired up. NBA ratings have tanked. Your boy. Everybody out there on hashtag NBA Twitter is talking about how the NBA is competing with the NFL. And the NBA is going to pass the NFL one day. NFL destroys the NBA. NBA ratings down 20% for Game 2, 18% for Game 1. Even if you include all of Canada in the ratings, still down 10%. Because everybody's out there like, well, Canada's not included in the ratings. No crap! Canada's not in America. So Canada is not included in the U.S. television ratings, just like Mexico and Belarus and Bongai, Central African Republic, is also not included in the ratings for America. It's a crazy idea. American TV ratings only include America. So this is crazy in and of itself, all right? Because I told you what? I said the NBA's got a player, not a league. LeBron James out of the playoffs, ratings tank. I said the Warriors, people care about. They're lucky that the Warriors are there. If the Portland Trailblazers or the Houston Rockets had upset the Golden State Warriors or the LA Clippers, ratings would be down 50%. This is a calamity. It's a disgrace for business side viewers because ESPN spent $1.4 billion a year on the NBA. They're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars here. Why are they going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars here? Because the ratings are nowhere near what they need to be because they bought into the online universe that believes the NBA is one day going to challenge the NFL. Newsflash, it ain't happening. As long as football exists, it's always going to dominate. We'll talk about this some on my show because I think the NFL, to their credit, when ratings started to go down, and by the way, the NFL ratings have gone down less over the past couple of years than the NBA ratings, and the NFL actually addressed it. What can the NBA do to actually make things better? And for the NBA stands out there, here's a stat that is still true. 1998 is the time that the NBA actually mattered the most in this country. 35 million people watched Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals in Game 6. Do you know how many people watched last night in America? Around 13 million. So 22 million fewer people watched, even though the United States population is 50 million higher now than it was back in 1998. For all the NBA stans out there, for everybody out there who's an NBA stan, you guys are not living in a real world. You're living in an artificial world, and not the cool kind like the Matrix. By the way, I do wish last night that Obama, when he was there, that Drake had come up and tried to massage his shoulders just to watch what the reaction would have been from the Secret Service. I would have loved to see him get wiped out. And for everybody out there, somebody said, TV has changed since then. I watched on YouTube TV. First of all, you're a loser because you watch on YouTube TV. It's a minute slower than it is on cable or satellite. So you're a minute behind. Congratulations. Secondly, television hasn't changed that much. Ratings for every other sport just about are up in the past several years because sports is what is uniting the television viewer. The NBA is tanking while the NFL is surging. That's the truth. Anthony Ruiz. All my life, I have seen heavyweight champions, from Mike Tyson to George Foreman, to Evander Holyfield, to a bunch of guys since then that I don't really know, Lennox Lewis, and then a bunch of guys I didn't care about. And then last night, Saturday night, Anthony Ruiz took off his shirt, and I said, my God, I am in better shape than the heavyweight champion of the world. I would have never believed it was going to happen at the age of 40. Would have never believed it was possible that I would end up in better condition physically than the heavyweight champion of the world. I thought that Ruiz winning was massive for boxing. Because you know why? I'll watch him fight this British guy, Joshua. I'll watch Deontay Wilder now. I'll watch Tyson Fury. We actually got some drama. I think this is bad for the UFC. The heavyweight boxing has made a comeback. And this is going to be, I think, a big difference in the way that sports are consumed. We needed a fat dude, and every man that could unite America. I will watch this replay, and I also think it is massive for DAZN. How many of you subscribe to DAZN? I'm curious, on Facebook or on Twitter. How many of you are subscribers to DAZN? You care about fights enough, boxing enough, because that's their primary draw right now, that you subscribe. I am genuinely curious to see how many of you subscribe. I know there's a lot of illegal streaming of this, but it is an intriguing situation to see exactly how that's going to go. Because I do think that this will bring in more people who subscribe. You need big stars. You need people that people are going to care about. I think Ruiz is that, and I think it's possible that that is what's going to happen. DAZN, DAZN, is the name of this story, of this company. All right. I think it's going to be fun to watch and see how Ruiz does on DAZN and elsewhere. Very cool story that he won. But I never would have believed that I've got a better body than a heavyweight champ. And I certainly wouldn't have believed the upset that it was going to happen when I'm 40 after I haven't ever had that in anywhere near that kind of position. All right. The SEC has announced that they will now allow alcohol in the stadiums, which is a big deal, I think, in terms of overall revenue. But for my life, it is going to make a big difference because now if I'm at a stadium, I can legally drink to drown my sorrows while I'm watching University of Tennessee football games. In all seriousness, I have believed for a long time, and there are studies that back me up even after I had this theory, I think that there is more drinking because there isn't alcohol in the stadiums. I have been at any number of tailgates over the years where everybody is out there drinking right before they go in. And right before they go in, they run another liquor drink, they run a couple of beers because they know they have to go 3 or 4 hours without alcohol. Now, I know you can smuggle it in your girl's bra. I know you can smuggle it in your boot, in your, like on a thigh patch with your flask, like all different sorts of ways to smuggle in alcohol, okay? But I think there are a lot of people that aren't willing to go through that, and they would like to go in and just be able to buy a beer. I think this will actually decrease overall drunkenness. I think it's a smart move by the SEC schools that will allow it. And so I think it will limit the amount of overall binge drinking that goes on because people will be able to pace themselves more. I have been at SEC stadiums everywhere, and you have definitely been there too. You see some poor bastard or some sorority girl stumbling into the stadium. It's 110 degrees in the sun, and you can just see them starting to get the spins going on, and they get really, really drunk as the game progresses and sometimes end up passing out, and they're in rough shape. I think if you had beer in the stadium, it would be less likely to happen. Now, every individual school can make their own decision, but I think this is going to be an overall net positive for SEC football and for fans and for the experience of being in the game. And somebody just said that's true. West Virginia was one of the first schools that has a big, kind of tailgate atmosphere, and they had less alcohol incidents once they had alcohol in the stadium than they did when they didn't allow any alcohol in the stadium before. So this was my thesis. There have been studies that have come out to be proven, and I've just been at so many tailgates. I can't tell you the number of times right before kickoff when you go into the game, I have heard people say, oh, I got to run this drink right now because I'm not going to have any alcohol for the next couple of hours, and you overconsume. right? You end up drinking too much, then you get into the stadium. It's a difficult situation. So I think this is a smart move. I applaud the SEC on being progressive and forward-thinking. What do we got going on here? We got all sorts of southern states. Tennessee allows sports gambling. Arkansas has got it on the way. Mississippi should expand and include online. We got all this stuff that's happening. It used to be stupid people would fight and argue, like Jesus wouldn't have had a beer before he went to an SEC football game. That was the argument, right? You had all these religious freaks who would make that argument. And it's like people are starting to just be rational. And I encourage and compliment it in the world of sports gambling, in the world of alcohol, in the world of lotteries, wherever it may be. I like the fact that people are being rational and making concerted, smart decisions as opposed to just relying on demagogues who are out there making arguments that don't make any sense at all. I, by the way, have said this for a long time. I would make weed legal, and I would also make prostitution legal. And I would tax all of them, and I would stop using police officers to enforce either weed or prostitution laws in that respect. I'm fine with age limits, 21 years old to buy weed or cannabis or anything else. I think that would make potentially a lot of sense. But I also think it's crazy that we put people in jail for paying for sex, like the whole Robert Kraft story, as I've told you guys before. All right, I went and saw Aladdin. All right, I went and saw Aladdin. I went and saw the original back in 1992. I took all three of my kids. I got to tell you, there are some things that I will never defend. One of them is live action musicals. I hate musicals, okay? I don't like them at all. They never have made any sense to me. I'm okay with it in cartoons. But the minute that people start to sing in the middle of a story, I lose my mind. Same thing with plays, everything else. Just say the words without singing them. I don't need to hear the plot advanced by songs. And in this Aladdin musical, at least we knew some of the songs, right? You've Never Had a Friend Like Me, Make Way for Prince Ali, whatever these things are called. And I was okay with those because at least those are classic songs. But they went and added the worst songs ever. Like Princess Jasmine is walking around talking about how she won't be like scared or something. I don't know. And it was awful, okay? Will Smith as the genie was okay. He got super ripped. My kids liked it okay. The best part for them / worst part was when Aladdin, spoiler alert, kisses Jasmine and they get together. All my kids and all the kids in the theater I was in Florida went, oh, ooh. Like the kids don't like when boys and girls kiss. And so they thought that was gross. But in general, I'm not a fan of this remake in live action, the existing Disney movies. Just make more Pixar films. I like the Pixar films. They're never musicals. I'm not a musical guy. I don't want live action singing in my films. So anyway, I halfway through it, I turned to my wife. I said, I didn't know they were singing in this. She said, yeah, it's a remake. So you didn't tell me. I wouldn't have come to this movie if I had known I was going to have to sit through these long dance and song routines. I hate them. I hate musicals. Never going to change my mind. They're atrocious. They're a travesty on the entertainment marketplace. Finally, spelling bee. 8 spelling bee participants in tied, all right? 8 of them are tied. This happened on Friday or whatever it was. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. If you have spelling participants that tie, got to have an arm wrestling contest. What I want going forward is I want all of the spelling bee participants to have to simultaneously train for the spelling bee and train for arm wrestling combat in the event that they end up in a tie. I want an 8-way tie. I want them sitting there with, remember those kids that used to have like those squeeze things where like they had the super strong hands and there was always that one kid who just had the huge forearms in like 8th grade. And you're like, what are you doing? He's like, making my forearms strong. What are you talking about? Remember that? Do they still have those? Do kids still bring those in? Where there's always like the one guy, and they were like clippers, and he's just squeezing them all day. And you're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making my forearms strong. Well, why do your forearms need to be strong? Are you a longshoreman? Like, what do you need? So there's always this one guy. I remember there was one guy in my school who had like incredibly strong forearms, and he would just sit around in class all day just squeezing on that thing. You know what I'm talking about? That's what I want all the spelling bee people to be. I want them to have to spell the words correctly And if they end up tied, I want it to come down to Sylvester Stallone rolling in over the top arm wrestling competition. That's how we despise it. That's how we decide it. Makes perfect sense to me, and I think that it needs to be underway. All right, I got to go to television. Lock it in. I'm back after a long foray. I think Rachel Bonnetta gets a bunch of maple syrup poured on her head because the Raptors lost. Really high-end television coming your way on FS1 in about 25 minutes. Love all you guys. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Kisses to all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I'm back in town. We'll be back with the Outkick the Shows. Thank you guys. If you enjoy it, share it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hold on. I got to figure out how to turn this thing off again. There we go. All right. Love you, Facebook. See y'all.